Hey everybody, it's Rick Wilson, CEO of Miva, here on the Dragonproof e-commerce podcast. This is Thursday, March 26th. We're recording in the afternoon, not filming, thankfully. I've been in quarantine for 11 days, so you don't want to see me right now. I wanted to get online and talk to you guys a bit about what's going on, both with Miva and just in general. There's an old saying about the fear is often caused by uncertainty, right? So there's nothing worse than being in limbo. No one likes to be in the hallway between the rooms. And I think a lot of people currently feel that way. And I can understand that. Some businesses are going to be in that hallway for months. Some businesses are going to be in that hallway for days. And my hope for you is that you're only in there for days. What I would also tell you is this, as someone who's been kind of deep in studying this now for weeks, which normally wouldn't sound like very much, but for something moving this fast, weeks almost turns me into an expert. I think we're going to weather this thing quickly and our businesses will rebound. We need to be prudent. I can't stress enough being prudent, but this is not the time to panic. As a business owner, entrepreneur, CEO, this is actually a time to just get really clear about where your business is going, and lean into it, because history goes to the bold, and this is a great time for that. In many ways, Miva got lucky, and what I mean by that is we had MivaCon coming up, which was our conference, and we had to make a decision about postponing it, and it forced us to think through what we thought was going to happen, like in a more realistic tone than maybe we would have otherwise, right? So had we waited for things like Gavin Newsom to start putting things on shutdown, we might have been behind the curve. But what came of it was we moved to a work from home company for a company that was largely not a work from home company. 130 employees. Generally, all of us worked in the office except for 3 or 4. And we were able to do that in 2 weeks, which, if normally I don't talk much about Miva on this podcast, but what's been amazing is how successful it's been. So the Miva staffers seem to be handling the transition really well. Our productivity remains as high as ever. We're putting out new product releases every 2 weeks. We're putting out, we're launching new websites. And so it's been an interesting time for the last couple of weeks as we had to move to a whole new operational model. Right now, obviously, I think like most companies, is we're in a mode of trying to just figure out if we're okay, right? So are we okay? And how do you define if we are okay? And if we're okay or not, that helps define if our customers are going to be okay. So from our perspective, it's about GMV, gross merchant volume, and then if they're shipping, right? So if our customers are getting sales and shipping, then those are good things. Right now, our GMV is up. Shipping is a little harder to track, but it seems like everyone's shipping still. We have some customers who've spiked. There's customers who are selling certain things that are taking off during this time. There's customers who are in trouble. From an e-commerce perspective, what we're seeing is that if someone sells, say, discretionary items to younger people in the service industry, their business is probably struggling. If you're selling B2B items or other items, your business is probably thriving. But e-commerce is clearly a critical lifeline to this process. And so those are things we're monitoring. And we used to monitor GMV on a month-over-month basis. We're now literally monitoring on a day-over-day basis. We're looking for customers who have spiked, customers who have cratered, trying to offer support to those who have cratered, trying to just make sure people who have spiking are safe and their sites are up, they don't go down. So that's kind of what's going on at Miva. But for us to turn 130 people into a work from home company in 2 weeks is something that I would call a Herculean effort. For lack of a better term, it may be one of the proudest things I've ever seen done. I've personally been sheltering in place for 11 days. About 8 years ago, San Diego had a blackout that lasted for about 12 hours. And so during that time, I was like, I'm not a prepper. I'm not a prepper type of person. But I was like, what if there was an extended blackout? What if I needed to survive without power for 3 days or 10 days? So I've always had 60 days of food here on stock. I haven't opened any of that yet. Thankfully, things like Uber Eats and Postmates and whatnot are still delivering food. Plus, I want to support local businesses. So that makes me happy. Mainly what we've been doing internally with me at Miva for personal stress is Zooming. What I found is that video conferencing has been very effective. Phone calls are nice. It's nice to talk to people on the phone. But for us as a staff, and I would recommend this to anyone out there who's listening who's a business person, which it should be anybody who's listening, The video part of Zoom has been really helpful. It recreates a type of connection that you normally only get in the office. It's not perfect. We can all see what we look like when we don't have to go to the office every day for 2 weeks. But Zoom video conferencing has been incredibly helpful for Miva as a company, and I have to suspect that's going to be true for most people. When it comes to what's going on in the world of e-commerce this week, e-commerce most of the e-commerce that we deal with seems to be, we've been tracking GMV, like I said, on a daily basis. So our GMV is up. So for the most part, it's up. I think what's happened is the last 20, 25 years, e-commerce has been sort of being primed as an alternative retail method. But it's always been a secondary retail method. People wanted to go in stores, and suddenly we're forced into a world of physical isolation. We're lucky. We're lucky we have e-commerce. We're lucky we have the infrastructure in this country for the e-commerce systems we have. It's allowed, I think, and it's going to allow us to weather the storm and recover from the storm faster than we would have otherwise. And I don't just mean because of Miva. I mean, anyone and everyone who's basically able to take an order at physical distance and fulfill it in a safe way. That's what's really incredibly important. But there's other things going on right now. We're still waiting for the stimulus bill to pass. The House is going to vote on it tomorrow, Friday the 27th, if my days are correct. Luckily, since you guys know I'm recording during the pandemic, I could be off on days. But the stimulus bill could have a lot of impact on most e-commerce businesses because it's for people who have under 500 employees, which is the vast majority of e-commerce businesses. And so there's some things in there that can really make a big difference. When it comes to things like the government, I wait till see what the final link is. But that's, I'm hopeful, I guess, or optimistic that the stimulus package coming from the government is going to be helpful to both our customers and other people in our industry at a time when it's really important. Probably one of the bigger challenges is that a lot of e-commerce businesses, in order to fulfill, need to have people in proximity with each other. And right now, it's the one thing we don't want to do is have people in proximity with each other. So we might see some automation come out of this. We might see more warehouse automation. That's been coming for a long time. Crises tend to move things faster. But I think if you're a current e-commerce business and that's not an option for you, right? You can't go buy a bunch of robots. I think just figuring out a way for your warehouse workers to be able to stay 10, 12 feet apart while they're doing their job is really important. I think it's critical for their health. First of all, if your employees get sick, I mean, just in a selfish manner, if your employees get sick, then your business is going to be stuck. Plus, we don't want people to get sick. We want to flatten the curve. We don't want people to get sick. More importantly, we don't want our parents and elders to get sick. And so, I think in the long run, we may see more automation out of this, but currently it's more of a practical time. I think we all need to be looking at just how do we allow ourselves to do our jobs? The creative thinking for the CEO or the entrepreneur now is how do we allow ourselves to do our jobs in the current environment? And, I've always suggested that the point of business is to solve problems. So this is the time we get to solve one of those problems. Some businesses are going to have huge spikes in e-commerce sales. They just are. Hopefully your supply chain's intact. I'd be checking on that. You're not going to have a lot of control over it in some cases, but you should at least spend time talking to your suppliers and making sure you have visibility into your supply chain. Because right now we're living in a world, for those of you who don't know, I like to go to Burning Man. And one of the things I've explained to many people is this is a lot like riding a bike in a whiteout. So if you've ever been in a whiteout in the desert, you can ride your bike for about 5 feet, then you stop, and then you wait, and then you do it again. And that's kind of like what it's like to run a business right now. Visibility normally in a business is 6, 12, 18 months. Right now, visibility in a business is 6 to 24 hours. So for some people, there's going to be a huge spike coming. You need to know your supply chain. For some people, there's going to be a crash coming because people have discretionary income and they have to cut back. You need to be really rethinking your strategic plans on a basically once-a-day basis. It's hard to imagine this is not going to be a recession triggering event, right? So, not to cause panic. In fact, I'm Mr. Not Panic. But in most cases, this is going to be a recession triggering event. You just can't, we can't shut the country down for 90 days and not expect an impact. And so with that, it depends on what you sell, right? So if I sold, luxury jewelry right now, I would probably cut back on my orders. I'd probably keep my expenses to a minimum. I would do all sorts of things to try to make sure that I can wait until people have shown a desire to start spending again. On the flip side, if I sold survival gear, or some of our customers sell gun stuff. Those stores are exploding right now. We don't have any toilet paper stores. I'm sure they'd be exploding. So it's really about looking at what you do for a living and trying to figure it out. So, because not every business suffers in a recession. Some businesses grow. I mean, we actually bought Miva back from the previous owners right before the financial crisis in 2008. And because of e-commerce, it caused us to explode, not shrink. It wasn't an easy time. There was a lot of fright during that time, but it really depends on what you sell. Now, if I sold, $500 pairs of, if I sold a $500 scarf right now, I'd probably be prepared to not sell that many for a few months. I don't personally know of any businesses that have actually shut down yet, but I think the people who are going to suffer the most in this sense are going to be the ones who have a mixture of brick and mortar and online. So some of our customers that we've seen that are struggling, their online business is through the roof, but they've had to close, dozens and dozens of retail stores. So it depends on their ability and probably the stimulus package to figure out how they're going to survive that. And so it really is going to be an industry by industry thing. We are going to have a recession, and I don't say that as a catastrophizer. In fact, I think most people know here I'm an optimist. But it's time to trim the sail and prepare. E-commerce itself, I think we're lucky, for lack of a better term, that e-commerce itself is now trusted, right? If this was 1998 and this was happening, you'd see all sorts of mayhem going on online. People would probably still be trying to order online because they'd want stuff, but the internet wasn't ready for it. The internet at this point is seasoned. It is seasoned and is strong, and there's no reason to think that e-commerce businesses cannot both survive this and actually help us all grow through this, which is, I think, probably the most important thing. One of the ways I've seen e-commerce used in new ways is, the buy online, pick up and parking lot stuff, right? So it's sort of a change on buy online, pick up in store. But you order stuff and then you get it all dropped out to your car. Things like that. I mean, that's just one simple example, but things like that are the kind of things we're going to see happening in e-commerce. One risk we have when it comes to e-commerce right now is essential fulfillment. So as of now, UPS, FedEx, USPS, Amazon Prime, they're all still delivering for the most part on time. But like we've started monitoring internally not only the sales of our customers, but their ability to ship, right? Because I think that's going to be a huge thing, right? Because if people can't ship, then e-commerce has a different problem. Luckily, right now, there is no indication that's going to change. Right now, the supply chains, not counting supply chains from China, although those are starting to open back up. But right now, supply chains within America and being able to get things delivered, they might be delayed by a day or two. People would be okay with that. I think right now, fear is probably the biggest enemy, to steal from Eleanor Roosevelt. This is tough. This is like a slow-moving bomb, but we're going to survive this. And not just are going to survive this, but if there's any place in the world that I believe in the ability to thrive from this, it's Western democracy countries that have free markets. We're still in the middle of a storm. The nor'easter is hitting. Keep your storm shutters closed, but there's going to be time soon where it's time to go. And my personal belief is that time's coming in June. I think 90 days based on what we've seen out of China. I'm hoping that Governor Cuomo and Governor Newsom and the other governors who've taken such strong action to really try to protect us have helped flatten the curve. And if they have, come June or July, we will be in a great position, I think. There's things about this virus we just don't know yet. So I wouldn't want to say I'm positive, but I think that's where it's heading. If we all do our part and we stay physically distanced and we keep doing our work and we stay productive, I think that in June we get to come out of this thing at full speed. That's my hope, and that's what I see coming. For those of you who chose to listen today, I appreciate it. I think we're going to do one of these once a week where I just kind of ramble. This is a new dragon. We hadn't seen this dragon coming, but that's kind of the point of dragons. And you know what? You can always stay dragon-proof. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.